Yeah, welcome, Ludovic. We're looking forward for today. So, thank you all again for joining. We'll hand it over to our facilitator of the day, that is Dr. Ludovic Lopa. And remember, it is our last session, training session, and you can follow our previous sessions on our e-learning platform. But for today, let us learn more about introduction to dashboards using RShiny. Ludovic, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Duncan. So as Duncan has just said, today we are going to have a discussion on Shiny. So we're going to have a brief introduction to dashboard with Shiny. And actually we're going to cover just these 5 things. Why do we need interactive data? What is Shiny? Why Shiny? And then we'll cover a little bit of the anatomy of Shiny. And then the basic Shiny syntax. And then we'll have plenty of time for practice. So to start with, we should ask ourselves this question: why do we need interactive data? I believe by this time we've mastered the art of ggplot, and most of us can tell stories with our data. We can create visualization that are clean, that are insightful. But I would like to argue that even though we may be so happy with what we can do, still our data can be termed as static. I mean, the output of analysis can be termed as static. And with this, I would like to pause and ask a question before we go on. Do we think there's a need for interactive data? And when I say our data is static, what do I mean? Or what do you think I mean by that? So you can just raise up your hand and say anything, or maybe write anything in the chat. What do you think it means when we say the visualization, the analytics that we've done so far are more or less static, and we need to make them interactive? What does this mean? Do you have any entries in the chat?
I can't see any in the chat, but I can try. Is that,
Okay.
for example, if we plot using ggplot, you just end up
Yeah.
with one instance of that data. Let's say, for example,
Yeah.
like the image you're portraying here of the restaurant on the bottom left.
Yeah.
That's just a static image. There's no way we can
Yeah.
see any variations or changes.
Yeah. And I really like that word, variation. And I think we'll see a lot of it as we go along. And we can just use this word and try to explain the whole logic. Why do you need interactive data? So for instance, consider this, this map. This is a map of Tanzania that was taken from a 4-page report that highlights the state of HIV prevalence in different regions in Tanzania. So I used to work in this region called Shinyanga. And as you can see there, the prevalence is around 5.6. Oh, sorry. The prevalence is around 5.6, which is a little bit higher compared to the national prevalence, which is 4.4. But actually, that's not the whole story. The region itself has, I think if I remember correctly, it has 6 districts. And among those districts, there's one district that has a HIV prevalence of around 8 to 9. So we have one region, we have one district, okay, so has a prevalence of 8 to 9, but the overall prevalence of the whole region is just 5.6. So you can imagine presenting this data to a policymaker or maybe to a regional councillor and tell him that, okay, fine, your region has a prevalence of 5.6, okay, which is a little bit above the national average, but there are some other places that are much worse than you. Maybe if you go to Njombe or Iringa or Mbeya. But then again, this person is more likely to miss that there are certain hotspots within that region that have prevalence which are as high as 9%. So with interactive data, what can we do? We can create a map that highlights all the districts within that region. And you can just select a particular district, and it can tell you that the prevalence in this district is around 9 or maybe it's around 7. You can just create maybe a bar chart that shows distribution of HIV prevalence maybe by sex or by age group. So we can just select and deselect these variables, and then the bar chart will change and tell you specifically that, okay, in that district, if you are to select males, the prevalence is around 5. If you are to select females, the prevalence maybe is around 4. If you are to select maybe this age group, the prevalence is around 6, etc. So in that way, you can just provide a single dashboard that can be very informative. And when the stakeholders are interacting with it, they can find a lot of information by themselves, maybe become intrigued, even ask more questions, or even see the whole logic of why they need maybe the police suggestions that you are bringing to them. So this is one of the reasons why we can create plots, but when we give them in a way that they're not interactive, they just become like one-dimensional. There's only one layer of information that can be given from those plots. But when we give them in an interactive way, for instance, in dashboards, they can become like 3 dimensions, like there are so many ways in which you can view the same data from different angles. And it's because of this, we believe that it's important to learn about Shiny. So Shiny is one of the useful packages that can make our visualization interactive. There's some other packages like Plotly, but for the purpose of this session, we're going to cover Shiny alone. And with Shiny, we can create modern, intuitive, interactive website experience for our users. So they can just select, deselect, maybe choose this, or maybe slide the bar. And then from there, we can just get changes in our output, if it's a plot, or maybe if it's a table, or if it's a chart. And with this, we can see that it can empower decision makers in a way that they can explore complex data or even the models that we have created. And in that way, they can become more intrigued with our work, and probably even what we are suggesting are more likely to have more impact compared to if we give them just a one-dimensional data set. Data output or visualization. And then the other thing, you can imagine, what if you know how to create this dashboard and you try to take advantage of that information and that knowledge and apply it in your workplace? Imagine that you're working in a hospital, and then you have this director who is interested with this data set, or maybe the trend of finance, or maybe the trend of maybe non-communicable disease by age, by sex, by region, and then you create a dashboard for that. I believe you'll be one of the people who are highly marketable at your workplace. So this is a highly sort of after in the job market, and that's we think at Afredac, we think that's is one of the important tools that we should learn. So basically, the anatomy of Shiny is something like this. The app itself has 3 structures. We have the user interface, what the user sees when he opens the dashboard, that web application. And then we have what's happening behind the curtain. All the codes that are running, what you are seeing, the outputs that you are getting, the instant reactivity that you are seeing. And then we have this, what we call a Shine App call, which tie together the user interface and server function to ensure that you get, the user gets what is interested with. So basically, the client will be with the computer or maybe with the phone, and he or she will be entering these entries or select or deselect this. And then the request will be sent to the server function, from which it will be manipulated. And then from there, a response will be created, which will go back to the client following the Shine App function call. So basically, the anatomy of Shine is something like this. Here it may look very intimidating, but as we go along and familiarize ourselves with these codes, maybe something which is not that much intimidating. And the basic Shiny syntax is something like this. As usual, we are going to call the library. So we call the library Shiny. We want Shiny to help us to create this dashboard. And then we'll write code for the user interface, which will be something like this, fluid.page, and then this will be assigned to user interface. And then we'll define what our server should manipulate, the codes, the output, the plots, how should it look like? And this will be assigned to the server. And then there's this, lastly, simple code, which run the application itself, Shiny app. And then we write the both user interface and the server. So after this, we are going direct to the practice. Today, our objective is to get something like this. This will be just a simple dashboard that will show us how HIV status changes when we manipulate sex. And it will show HIV status, number of patients with HIV by their occupation, based on how we manipulate sex and based on how we manipulate the HIV status, whether they are positive or they are negative, whether they are female or they are males. And we'll see right away when we select or deselect something here, or maybe when you use this Dropbox and choose maybe positive or negative, we have an instant changes on this side. And what we'll be having there is something, is a principle that is very applicable to the Shining, called the principle of reactivity. So I change one thing here. Maybe I click here and select male, and then right away I'll see a reaction in this plot. Or maybe I deselect that and click female. Right away there will be a reaction in that plot. And then this is something that we are going to look when we reach at the practice session. So the objectives of our practice will just be these 4 things. We'll remind ourselves how to create app directory, which is something which by this time we know how to do. And then we'll see how we can create the app file, the Shiny app file, which is .app file. And then we'll know that there are some built-in Shiny examples, the 11 built-in Shiny example. We'll try to pass through some of them. We'll try to familiarize ourselves on how they are and what they're actually projecting. And then after that, we'll build our maiden Shiny dashboard. So before I go ahead with the session, if there are any questions, or if there are any other additions, please welcome Duncan, Ashna.
Nothing extra for me. It was good to see the visualization of how the input and output is related. I guess seeing it in an example will be quite helpful. But I thought that was a good visualization of the 2 components.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So okay, so we said our first objective will be to create the app directory. I think we still remember how to create the directory. So just come to the okay, so just come to the file. After opening your R Studio, we'll just come to the file and then we'll open a new project. Okay, and then from new project, we'll open a new directory. Okay, so maybe a new project, and then you can call it whatever you want, maybe a new app. And then you can create the project. So you probably share what you have experienced with this, Ashna and Duncan, but from what I learned, how I familiarized myself, they're saying that whenever you're trying to build a new dashboard, it's usually important, or at least they're advising that you should use a different directory for each dashboard so that it can be easy to launch them and ensure that whenever you're sharing the codes, the courseworks and something like that. So what's your experience on this? Because every time I have to create a new dashboard, I have to create a new directory and then start from there. Okay. Am I still on? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ludovic, we can hear you loud and
Okay.
clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after creating the directory, the other thing will be to create your file for the app. So you can do it either by come to the new file, then come direct here to the Shine web app, which will create for you a new .app. Okay, do you want to install Shine now? Okay. So that will create a new file for me, but okay, you can wait for that. But the other way is to write a, just choose and create a new file, R script. And then from the R script, okay, the file's here, so maybe this will work. So here I've created a new app.r file. So it will look something like this. And you just get it here, this from coming to new file, and then you select the Shine web app. So it will come with the basic Shiny app syntax, which has the library to call the Shiny app, and then you have the user interface. And then down here you have the server, and then down here you have the Shine app call function. But this is one way. The other way is to just choose a normal R script file. So R script file. And then after this, you can just write all the code for that you want to write on the concerning that dashboard, and then you can save it as app.r. Okay, so you can save it as app.r, and still this will run as the Shiny dashboard file. So these are the two ways in which you can create the files. You can create it direct from the R script, or you can just come here and create it from Shine web app. And then from Shine web app, there are actually two ways to create them. You can create it as a single file that contains the user interface and server within the same script, or as multiple file that is user interface script in one file and then server script in the other file. But for now, we'll be using the single file script. So I'll get rid of this, and then we'll come to explore the examples. So if there are any additions from you guys.
Nothing from me. We are following keenly. We are really eager to try.
Okay.
The Shiny app.
Okay, so let me open my Shiny web, the one that I had created earlier. Sorry about the background noise. I hope you can still hear me. Okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so that's fine. So as usual, whenever we want to do anything in R, we usually start with loading the packages. So I've loaded the packages that I'll need for this task. And this includes the Shiny app itself, the tidyverse for data manipulation. We have Rio and here for importing and locating the data set that we'll be working on. And here we've just imported that data. So my data is found in a folder called data, and that's the data set itself. So we'll just begin by running these codes. So we've just loaded the packages, and then here we've just imported the data. And then here I've just manipulated the data to just to change the gender from 1 and 2 to male and female, to change HIV from 0 and 1 to negative and positive, And then just to rename the names of hospitals from hospital diagnosis to just hospital, to gender, to sex, HIV, to HIV status, and age, all in low cases, to age starting with capital letter. And then here I've dropped all the NAs in our data set. So I'll also run this. And then after this, we'll go direct and try to see how can we build the user interface itself. Okay, so here are the codes for how we can build the user interface. We said that the basic code was, okay, so let me show the basic code. So here is how the basic code look like. So we have started right away building on this. So we have the field page, which is assigned to the user interface. And so what we are going to do is fill in the inputs in this user interface. Okay, so. Okay. Okay, so we want to start filling codes in this user interface. So we started with the food bar. Don't worry about this code. You can just come to this shiny cheat sheet. And here we have all the information on what we need to put around there. So we have information like here it tells out the Shine app is a web page made of user interface and the server. And then where we are now is around here. We want to put these input values based on what we are really interested with. As I said before, we are going to create something that will give us select input options. So we will select this, select input, which will give us the drop-down menu that we can select whatever choices that we want. For the sex, whether it's male, for the HIV status, whether it's positive or negative. But then again, we'll be using, what again? We'll be using also the checkbox group, this one. So as you can see, what we'll be doing is just copying this, the checkbox input and all the things that are supposed to be entered inside. And then we can go to our original codes. And then we can go to our original codes and try to see what will they present themselves. So here we've started with writing the title. So the title panel, will say the panel will be HIV, sex, and occupation. That will be the title. And then this sidebar will be, okay, so I think I should first show you something before we go ahead. So it will be as easy for us. So this is what we call the sidebar. So here is where is the sidebar of our dashboard. So we have these entries that will be manipulating, and then we will see changes in this main body, which project the plot itself. So here is the sidebar, and this is the main body. So when I say the sidebar in the codes, I mean those are the codes that will give us this thing, and the main body, these are the codes that those codes will give us this thing. Okay, so let me delete all of this again. Yeah, all my drawings. Okay, so this will give us the title, and then in the sidebar layout, we have the sidebar panel. So here we selected the width of the panel itself. And then here we've selected the first thing that we said, we are going to select the select input function. And then from the function, these are the entries. The first one is input ID, which tells us at the end of the day, how do you want our input to be? So our ID will be based on HIV status in the dataset. And then we are going to label the ID itself as HIV status. The choices in this select input will be either all, positive, or negative. And all of these can be selected. So you can either select positive or negative, but when you don't select positive or negative, actually you'll be selecting all. So this will be the select input that will give us the choices for the HIV status. And then here we have the checkbox group input, which will give us selection for the checkbox when we select maybe female or we check only the female. And then the syntax is just the same. The input is based on the sex, and then the label, we've just recorrected it to sex with capital letter. The choices will be male or female. And then here we'll select either male or female alone. Here there's another code for the help text. We can also find it here in this help function. It's around here. So we have help text there somewhere. See it. So we're supposed to have a function for help here. Okay, I don't see it at the moment, but I know it's around on this side. And that's just to remind you that before you do anything there, you're supposed to, it's just a reminder that you have to select all the filters to update the plot. And actually, what it actually means is something like this. So if we run the app again, that help text is here. Select filters to update the plot. So it's just a reminder. It doesn't do anything much. It's just a reminder for you to just select or deselect these parameters so that the plot can react. So this is optional. You can put it or you can just leave it around. Okay, so the other thing is the main panel, which is the one which is going to give us the plot itself. So the main panel from the user interface side, it will be something like, what kind of a plot do we want to project? So here we have a mail panel, we have width of 9, and then the plot output will be output ID. We want it to be called something like occupational plot, and the height of it should be this around 500 px. But this is just one side of the user interface. We will actually use these sessions on the plot ID and also these ones to try to link between the user interface and the server so that at the end of the day, our plot can be interactive the way that we want. And then here in the server, so the codes, the basic codes will say function, input, output, and then from here we write everything that we want to be given out as the output. Starting from here, in this code, the output $sign occupational plot, render plot. This is what try to link this plot that we have written here in the main panel with the server, so that whatever that was written here can be linked with this, so that every manipulation that comes below this can be linked actually with the output which are around there. So we do that by using this render function, and you can also find it here. So basically here in this, can just use this again. So basically here, in this side, we have the input, what we want to put, for instance, the file input, or maybe the slider input, or text input. On this side, we have the outputs, their corresponding output. So if we say we are going to create maybe a plot output, in this side, we should have selected the plot input, as we've seen just there. So for instance, here we'll be selecting the plot input on input side, and then on the output side, it will be the plot output, which will be actively used, made actively using the render function. So it's just, it's like the two sides. So if you use one thing in the user function, in the user interface, in the output you have to use its corresponding function linking them with the render function. Okay. So this goes about that. And then here, okay. So in these two codes, here's where we write the reactivity that we said. So here we are just trying to link the inputs in HIV status, which were around here, with reactivity. So if our input, we are selected HIV status in our input, if the selection is not all, we will plot data that will filter HIV status based on the input on that HIV status. So if it's positive or if it's negative. And then here is another reactivity code chunk, which says that if the length in the in input for sex, which you had previously written here, is more than its length is more than 0. So if you have male, female, so it's basically one of the male or female. So we'll plot data which will filter sex based on the input in the sex, which is either male or the female. And then in this from line 59, we'll just write the ggplot codes for how our output will be. And then this from line 85 just shows us how we can link the two to create the output or the dashboard that we want. So basically, these are the codes that will provide the dashboard that we are going to use today. So after all those explanations, maybe we can just see how we can build it stage by stage. I know those might be a little bit confusing. And also I have just realized that we didn't see the built-in examples. I think we'll come back to them later. So let's just start with the user interface. So here we're just loading our packages and the data. So here is the basic, the dashboard, basic code. So we'll just run this and see how it will appear. So if we have not written anything, the dashboard will look something like this. There's nothing that is portrayed there. We have just uploaded these codes. So library, the user interface, fluid page, the server, and the Shine app. After running this code, we get something like this. We don't see anything, but we are sure that our app is running because we can see it's running, even though it's locally. So we'll just go a step further and try to create this code for user interface. So here we have only the code for the user interface, and then we don't have any codes for the server or any codes for the codes for Shine app call. So we run this again. So this is the code that we've just seen. We have the title panel, we have the sidebar. We said the bar that will be on the left side. The side panel, we have the widgets, the inputs, the checkbox, and then you have the main panel on the right with the plot output itself. And then we have the instructions, the basic instruction with nothing inside for the server and the run app call. So if we run it, now we can see we've built something on the user interface, at least on the side, on the sidebar. So here we can see we can just try to change this to positive, to negative. We can select male, we can deselect female, select male, select whatever. But actually we don't have any output because we don't have any codes that links whatever is in the user interface with what is in the server. So we go a step further. Here we've just written the codes for the user interface. Now we are trying to link this with the ones in the server. So we come down here. The codes for the user interface remain the same. And then here we have the codes for the server. What we said, the output, we want it to be occupational plot, is how we said around here. And then because we want it to be a plot, we have to use the render plot function. If it was a table, we could use a render table function, etc. So here we have just written the data set, and then we've just written the reactivity code, the one that I said earlier, which will select HIV status based on all, or maybe respectively positive or negative status, or which will select sex, whether it's female or male. And then these are the basic ggplot codes that we are familiar with. And then we run this and see what we get. So when we run this now, we had the codes for the user interface on this side. And now all of a sudden we have the codes also for the output. So now we can see our main panel has presented itself. And here we have all these intermingled numbers that shows HIV status by occupation for both negative and positive individuals. So we can go ahead maybe and say we want only positive individuals in this data set. So here we just have the positive individuals, but this still is not appealing because we have number at the top and at the bottom. So maybe you want only the males in this data set. So we can see from the data set that we had been working on for the past 2 months, among the businessmen, at least men of women, there are at least 7 individuals who are HIV positive, at least 2 doctors who are HIV positive, 4 doctors who are drivers who are HIV positive, at least 9 students who are HIV positive. And this who did not assign the occupation, there are at least 19 of them who are HIV positive. So what about the females? If you look at the females, we have, again, we have 12 females HIV positive around here, 4 housewives, 4 doctors. What about those who are negative? So if you go to negative, you can see that we have a large number of individuals who are HIV negative in this data set. So maybe we can say select all, positive and negative. So we can see here, so for instance, among students, we had 101 students who were HIV negative and 12 students who were HIV positive. We had 33 drivers who were HIV positive, negative, and 3 drivers who were HIV positive. So we can see whenever we change anything around here, we see reactivity on this side. So if I click that, we see the chart will react. If I change it to positive, it will react. If I change it to negative, it will react. And that's the reactivity principle that we've been talking about. And so with that, that's how you can basically create a shine up. As confusing as it seemed, but it's that easy. So in the user interface, you just need to write these entries based on what you want. And what should actually guide you, you can just come to this cheat sheet. And firstly, I understand that what do you want? Do you want your output on the sidebar to have choices? If so, you need to choose this. And we just go there and just add these entries. ID, just write your ID, the labels, the choices, etc. So if you want the checkbox, you just choose this. If you want the dates, you just choose that. If you want maybe the select option, inputs, you just choose this as how we did. If you want the slider, you just choose the select, the slider, etc. And then when it comes to output, if you want it to be a table, in the render function, you're going to choose plot output table. If you want to be a plot, you choose plot output, render plot. If you want to be a table, it will be render table. If you want to be verbatim text output, you just choose render print. They'll come just the way they were written. If you just want it to be text, you just choose render text. Or if it's an image output, you just choose render image. So whatever you want to project at the end of the day is your output. In the render function, you have to use respectively render output function. So it's whether render plot, render table, render print, etc. So that's how you link the user interface with the server. Okay, so basically we've just completed what we want to cover today. So what questions do we have? What inputs do we have? What else can we share? Or how creative can we get with this? Duncan, Ashna, and the rest of the team, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Ludovic. That was really, really interesting. I just wanted to have a question. And my question is, between using the Shiny web app and just having the script as .r, which one do you recommend?
Using the Shiny or having
or using just the R script, the way you've done it?
Okay. So when you're trying to create the Shine app, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's more intuitive to just go to new file and just create a new Shiny app dashboard using the Shiny web app. I think that's easy. It's easy to remember and it's just intuitive. Otherwise, when you use the script, you need to remember later on how you are going to how the Shine app file is supposed to be saved. Because
Okay.
I had this one experience where I had saved the file based on what I wanted. I don't remember I don't remember if I use a name rather than write app.r file. And when I tried to
Okay.
run it later on, it didn't work because the name is supposed to be app.r. So you save it in a specific Shiny directory, but at least the app itself will be app.r.
Okay.
So at least if that's the case, to just get rid of that confusion, you can just come and build the app using the Shine web app rather than go to the script and then save it as .app.r file.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yep. So maybe while we are still thinking of other questions that we can come up with, we can just go to the built-in examples that comes with the Shiny package. So I'll just so I'll just get rid of this commenting and then we'll try to run and see all these examples. So when you have downloaded the Shine app and load it, all these examples will be within that package. So I'll just run them and we'll just see them one by one. So this is one of the examples that shows the histogram using the slide bar input. So whenever we slide the bar around here to change the number of beans, we will see a reactivity on the output of our output on the main panel. And the main panel will change to accommodate the number of beans that we have written around there. So if we say it's 1 bean, it will be just 1 bean. If it's 6 beans, 5 beans, we'll see 5 beans. There we have 19 beans. Here we have 11 beans, etc. So you can try to imagine, even though there are other ways to do this, but if you can try to imagine if you are to look, if this data set is normally distributed or not, you can just come here and play along with this dashboard and see what kind of pattern do you get. Okay, so from when it started, okay, here it doesn't make, okay, so it's like we have two modes. We have that one and that one, and we can easily see it by just, so here we don't see anything. Here we just see one. And then here, a picture start building, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 2. That's definitely 2. We have 2 modes, 2 and 2. So that's one way you can create your dashboard and it will look something like this with this histogram. So just close that and then another one will open. So this one, it shows a shining text. So here we have a data set that gives us a drop-down menu with rock pressures and cars. And around here we have, it's like the summary statistics. Okay, we have the minimum, the first quarter, the median, the mean, third quarter, and then the maximum. And here we have the number of observations that are observed around here. So maybe if we say pressure, this will be temperature and pressure, and then we have this. If you want the number of observation maybe to be 1,000, you can just write 100, and you'll see the number of observation have increased. If it's 1,000, the number of observation will, okay, I think maybe the data set didn't have that much number. So let's say 50. So we see the number of observation have increased to 50, etc. We can change this to cars, and then again, we'll see the minimum speed, your first quantile speed, the median, mean, third, and maximum. So this is how we can use the shiny text. And then here is another one, which gives us now the data summary again. So we have the data summary. You can just choose the pressure, the cars, and here you can choose number of observations. This looks more or less like the other one. And then we have another one, which gives us a box plot based on variables that you're interested with. So we can say maybe you're interested with transmission, and then it will give us distribution based on transmission. So based on this box plot, you can see maybe the manual cars use more miles per gallon compared to this one, compared to the automatic cars. So if we say the gears, maybe when you're in gear number 4, you use more MPG compared to when you're in gear number 3 or 5. And then we have the cylinders, etc. So this is how you can create a box plot for your output using the Shine dashboard. Okay, so we have another one again. So here we have multiple sliders. So in the first one, which had histogram, we had only a single slider, which whenever we slided, we slided it, there are changes in the histogram. Here we have multiple sliders. So let's say in the integers, I want it to be around 200. So we have 195 there. In the decimal point, I want it to be around here. So we have 0.2, the range, I want it to be 200, maybe to 1000. So that's the range. And then the custom format, okay, so let's say that one. And then the animation, so let's say that. So whatever we are doing here, there will be changes in the values around here. And that's the whole idea of it. So imagine you have given this information, I mean, this dashboard to a stakeholder. They'll just be playing with the variables on this side and see what kind of output they can get in this side. So I'll close this and see if we can get a more intuitive plot. Okay, so we have this, which could have helped us to see if this data set is normally distributed, is uniform, is log normal, is exponential. So we've just click on the normal and we are seeing something like this. What about uniform? Okay, maybe. What about log form? Do we see a log form here? What about exponential? What if the number of observation maybe was around 1,000? What could we see? So we could see something like this. Will this still be normal distributed? Yes, it looks like it's normal distributed, something like that. So you can just play around with this observation and type of distribution and see what do you get. But then again, this is a little bit more complex. Here we have the plot output. Here we can have the summary statistics of those data. And then we can also have a table based on the data that we have. So I'll close that and go to another example. So this is more or less like the one that we had earlier. So I'll close this too. Okay, so here we have the output that show here a normal distribution, uniform, log normal, exponential. And then here we have number of observation. So let's see, what if we say normal? We see the plot has changed. What if the observation were 200? We'll have something like that. Can this be log normal? We'll have something like that. So basically, as you can see, whenever we are changing anything on the dashboard, we have change on the output, the plot data. So one more example to go. So in this, we could, okay, so in this we could browse a CSV file. Okay, I don't know if I have one of those. So let me see. I think I had one CSV file. So let me restore this. This was here. So okay, so here we can just browse and I'll come and choose my CSV file, open, and then my file will be here right away. So I can see from that file, I have a folder, and from that data set, I have names of chicken, which include the foghorn, leghorn, chicken little, ginger, Camilla the chicken, Annie the giant chicken. We also have a column that is sex, number of eggs laid, and the motto. So I can just, okay. Do you have some questions or maybe some inputs? Okay,
Oh no,
so
it's
I can
just me commenting on the data
yeah.
set being funny. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So you can see you can just separate them by comma, separate them by semicolon, separate them by tab. You can just choose to include the quotes or maybe single quote or double quotes, whatever. Okay, so I close that. And then the last example is on, okay, so you have a data set maybe on pressure or cars or whatever. You could create a dashboard that people can download those data sets from your web app. So here, if I click download, I'll have option to download that data set. So I'll click save. And hopefully, if I come and look at my download, I'll have a data set that the cars.csv, which I've just downloaded. So these 11 examples, so let me close this. So these 11 examples shows us how the multiple ways on which we could deploy our Shiny dashboard, at least in its basic form. I believe with more skills, we'll more likely be able to create more complex dashboard. For instance, in the example that I'd given earlier on HIV prevalence in that region, we could have created a dashboard that contains a map with all the districts colored based on their prevalence. And then you can just take your cursor and then hover around those districts, and then you could see the prevalence of respective district. You could even create a map that shows color changes based on the hotspots within the same district. So you can see, based on this basic knowledge, we can be able to create complex outputs, dashboard that can be interactive to our stakeholders. Okay. So the most important thing, if I should say a take-home message, is just these codes here. So as normal, we'll always start with loading a library, and then we'll have the code that defines the user interface. Then we'll have the codes that defines the server instructions. Then we'll have the codes that run the app by interact the user interface and server. And then our app will be up and going. So what kind of information should we put in this respective components of the dashboard app? We should always go back to our cheat sheet. And there are a lot of information that you can get around here. You just need to choose what you want. So if this is what I want, maybe the group box, I'll just come here and put it there. And maybe I'll be interested to see what that this gives me. So let me see what we'll get. Okay, so if I run that, I'll get some information around here. So it will tell me. So create a group of checkbox that can be used to toggle multiple choices independently. The server will receive the input as the server character of the selected values. So all these are the inputs. And I can see what the input ID tells. So input ID is a slot that will be used to access the value. So this is how we assess the value in the data set. The label, display the label for the control. So the name of our value, the variable will look like, the output name. And then we have information for all these others. And we can even see some examples on how this has been used by others. So we have variable to show, and then all this codes there. So basically, you don't need to remember everything at the beginning of all this. You just need to know that this is a basic code that all Shiny app will contain. And then from this, you can just build up on it step by step. And just like we have done around here, we can start in the user interface, and then later on we can build on the server functions. And then most likely at the end of the day, we'll have an app that's up and running. So actually, after finishing your app, you can actually publish it. And okay, so let me see if I can. I tried to publish it earlier yesterday, but okay. So after finishing your web app, there's this button around here. So mine is written republish, but actually, if I hadn't played with it, it was supposed to write publish. So I tried to publish earlier, but it didn't work. I'm still wondering why. So if you click here, publish, you'll see some deployment fields around here. So you'll see some changes. And if you're successful, it will prompt you to follow certain list of instructions, including go to shiny.io and then try to publish your dashboard. In that way, you can be able to share it to others. Otherwise, I need to share these codes just the way they are to someone else, and they can try to run it locally on their computer. Or otherwise, if I succeed with publishing it, it can be run online via the shineapp.io. Oh, I think there's okay, so I think there's another way also to run it. So if you are lucky, let's see if we'll be able to run it. Even though I tried it last time, it didn't work. The app was seen as running, but I couldn't interact with it online. Okay, Duncan, I'll send this to you. Did you try to publish it?
No, I did not try to publish, but
Okay.
I just did what you've done as well.
Okay. So I tried to publish last time. It didn't work. Oh, so Ashna, do you remember what data set was that? I didn't see this. You had commented earlier that this is your favorite data set so far.
Oh, that was the chickens data set.
Oh, the chicken. I bet it's the name thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Frank is asking for the R script. So I shared this with Athmani, so I think you can be in a position to say, if this were shared on the Afredac platform.
I'm going to share the
Okay. So Frankie, Athmani is going to share those data set with you, and I think you can just try to work along those codes and see if they work with you. I think the only thing that you should be careful with which I also expect that by this time you should be aware of, it's just this step here. The place where you'll be, where your HIV_update.xlx file is found. So you need to make sure that you have stored it in a place where if you run this code, it will make sense. Okay, so let's see if it, okay. So see, I've tried to upload it and it says an error has occurred, the application failed to start, exit status 1. I don't know why that keeps happening. Okay, so that's sadly the story of today. I couldn't publish the dashboard, but I'm still working on it. If I happen to understand why it didn't work, I'll share that information on the platform. So as I was saying, this step may be maybe the only step that could have made can make your dashboard to give you some errors. So make sure that you know where you have stored your HIV updated data set. All right, or here you can change with a code that will make sure that you have successfully imported your HIV data, and then the rest of it they're more likely to work just fine. So maybe to conclude, congratulations to everyone who have been patient with us for the past 2 months or so. I believe most of us have successfully mastered the art of making static data. And as we can see today, we have introduced you to interactive dashboard. I hope all of us can still go back and try to build on these skills. And hopefully one day we can share these amazing dashboards and maybe be more, impactful with the way we communicate with our stakeholders. It's important to cement that the Shiny dashboard works on the principle of reactivity. And based on all the examples that we've seen and the dashboard that we had today, we saw that whenever we try to interact with the slider, with the sidebar, there are some changes in our main panel. The outputs keep changing. And I think that's the whole, the whole idea why we should make these interactive dashboards. And I believe what we have given you just the foundation, the basics on how you can explore different ways on how to be more informative and impactful, and how you can communicate well with whoever you are working with, whether it's the other researchers that are in your team, or maybe the stakeholders, or the policymakers, or maybe the politician, etc. So I hope all of us are going to explore more on Shiny, and we can interact more on Afredac platform. And of fellow facilitator, thank you so much. I'd like to return the baton to you, Duncan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ludovic, for that session. I know for many of us, it's also the first time we are creating dashboards. It involves quite a learning curve, but you've really explained the aspects of it very well. So I know it's something that all of us will go and try. So, and we really appreciate for the sacrifice that you've made. I know you are somewhere because of the traffic. We really appreciate that, for your effort. So, as you've said, I have nothing more to add. Maybe just to urge our attendees that we will be meeting again next week, so that in case we'll have any questions for Ludovic, we'll ask him and try, and hopefully we can also try to make our own dashboard, so that when we come next week, we can all be able to troubleshoot where we have problems, if there will be any. So otherwise, thank you so much, Ludovic, and thank you all for attending this session. And we look forward to creating dashboards and seeing you next week. It was a very interactive session. Otherwise, Ashna, you have anything more to add, or Atumani, or Virginia?
Nothing more from me, just to thank you, Ludovic, for really breaking it down. I know Shiny is one of, I think, the most difficult things to conceptualize in R, and you've done it so seamlessly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ashna. Then I think with if there's no any other question for Ludovic, we can meet next week and try and troubleshoot the problems together. Otherwise, see you next week, and let's keep on coding.
So we have a question in the chat. Frank is asking, yeah.
What is the next course after the end of this course? So Frank, I will just give you the way forward next week. But for now, as far as this training is concerned, this will be the last session. Part 2 of this training will also be communicated soon. So please let's keep in touch. We'll also communicate on the part 2 of the course. But otherwise, let us meet next week. Yeah, please, Afredac.
Hello, Duncan. Thank you very much, Ludovic, for this. Frank, next week, please let us come for our usual club session. This is the last, I want to say, day for the training, but our training is not ending because next week we know what we usually do for our club sessions. We're going to have a little bit of, if you have questions to ask the facilitator next week, you come with it. And also, we want to use next week to look at the way forward, like you said. So if you have any proposals or anything that you would like to tell us about moving forward, or what you have gotten from this that you want to progress with, please come next week. We are hoping to see you all here next week so that the subsequent trainings are going to be tailored in a way that we help you to learn and to understand better. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and with that,
yes, prepare a smile. Prepare a smile next week. Prepare a smile. We're going to have a group photo. That's a nice idea. See you all next week.
Yes, see you next week. We'll have that photo next week. Thank you, Ludovic, for that. Okay, bye.